folks, it's Zach Elliott at Feel Free to Argue. How you all been doing? Um, Between my illness and various other things, I've been having a hard time finding my rhythm here in summer. Been trying to keep up with the news, and even that's been, I don't know, somewhat hard. But I have been watching with a great deal of interest what's been going on in Iran. And I think it's really intriguing because, in a very real sense, I view them as really fighting for the soul of their country in a way that we haven't really in a long time. So when I see the protests in Iran, and all those grainy footage taken with people's cell phone cameras and stuff, I don't know, I guess it's almost nostalgic for me. It kind of sets my mind back to the 1960s in this country, when there was a real sense that if the country got out of hand, that something needed to be done about it, as opposed to, our more recent past, where it just seems like nothing is significant enough to get us off our asses and get us out into the streets. And I think about this a lot too, when I hear, people talking down the French and stuff. Because to my way of thinking, the French seem to be very aggressive about pursuing, what they want from their government. Something which we say that we care about, but which we don't actually do. When the French get upset about something, they shut the freaking country down. But to get back to Iran, there have been some calls on the right, led by John McCain of all people, saying that, criticizing Obama for not weighing in more actively on the side of the protesters. And honestly, I think this is a case where Obama is actually doing a decent job. He basically, all we can say is that we're interested in making sure that Iran has free and fair elections. But as far as going in there and trying to bully them about things, I think we've got zero credibility. I mean, John McCain is going to tell the Iranians, that he cares about them now after he sang "Bomb, Bomb, Bomb, Iran." And I mean, it has to do with this short collective memory that we have in this country. Because, maybe only 1 in 30 people or 1 in 100 or whatever, I'm not even sure what the number would be, know about, Mossadegh and, him trying to nationalize, succeeding in nationalizing the Iranian oil fields, and the CIA engineering a coup to put the Shah in power there, basically as a favor to the British. But I think, maybe we don't know about this stuff, but I'm sure all the Iranians do. The Iranians know that the CIA was behind, deposing Mossadegh. So any pressure that we try to bring to bear in this situation is just going to come around and bite us in the ass. I mean, it's going to make them clam up. It's going to give, the reactionary elements in Iran, which are fighting for their lives right now, it's going to give them a breath of fresh air. It's going to give them something to fight against, because that's what Ahmadinejad has always survived by doing. I mean, he needed Bush as much as Bush often needed him, in the sense that he's a strong man, and a strong man needs to have a reason for his repressive measures. So it's always presented as a deal. It's like, look, no one wants to take your rights away, but there's this threat. And, in order to effectively combat this threat, we need to take your rights away. Now, that worked really well in this country. But, you know, the Iranians are less happy with it, probably because they started with a less open system to begin with. So, and there's all this positive energy in Iran. I mean, when you see those people in the streets, when you hear them talking about freedom, when you hear them talking about accountability and about the fact that their government, you know, needs to reflect their wishes and that they're not going to tolerate this outcome. I mean, this is exactly what we should have been doing the first time Bush won, even the second time that Bush won, because I mean, I absolutely believe that he stole both elections. So what Iran's doing is what we should have done. They're doing better than we are. So this is our time to shut the fuck up and let Iran do what it needs to do in order to reclaim its national character. And just one thing that I wanted to leave you with, which was an interesting observation that was made by Trita Parsi on Democracy Now! I think it was last week. He said that Iran is a very unique situation in that most of the places in the Middle East, you have populations which hate the United States and governments that play ball with the United States. I mean, you know, Saudi Arabia is a perfect example. I mean, we're hated in Saudi Arabia, but the government, you know, to whatever extent is possible, maintaining control, plays ball with us. And that's a similar case in many places in the Middle East. But what Trita Parsi pointed out is that despite how big of jerks we are to Iran a lot of the time, the Iranian population, especially the young people who like our culture, who like, you know, our pop music and our consumerism, they, and our freedoms, most of all, at least our perceived freedoms, they tend to be very pro-American, whereas the government is very hostile to the United States. And that's a distinction worth keeping in mind. When we think about, you know, how we treat Iran, we need to remember that the people of the country are actually rather favorably disposed to us, and we need to be very careful that we don't short-circuit anything that's going on in that country and cheapen it by getting our, you know, big mouth involved. So it's time to let the Iranians do what is necessary to preserve, to protect, to improve their country. And Obama's right. He should totally ignore all the calls from the right to get more aggressively involved in this, because it's not going to help, because we have zero credibility. But as always, you can feel free to argue. This is Zach Elliott. Hope you're doing well, everyone.